Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namah Shivaya. Morning. Continue with the topic of Hatha Yoga, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So, in the last talk, we spoke about what is Hatha Yoga. We read the first two verses. And first of all, anybody remembers what is Hatha Yoga? Anybody here practice Hatha Yoga? What is it? Sun and the moon. Very good. What is the sun and what is the moon? Good. Good. Okay, so Ha and Ta means sun and moon, and it refers to the two poles of our energy, the life force or prana. You see, the prana is a manifestation of the cosmic Shakti, the divine power that keeps the life force, and we connect to that life force basically through our breath. We can absorb life force, prana, from other sources, like a little bit from the sun, a little bit from the food we eat, from the water, but 99% of the prana we get is from our breath. So we can live without food for quite a while. We can, survive without water for, some days or a week or something. But how long can we survive without breathing? Only just a very few minutes, then you die. So the breath is what really activates the flow of prana, and we connect to the universe, universal life force, through our breath mostly. So breathing is the most important life force. And then the yogis knew how to control the breath, so you can really control the prana. First of all, to increase the level of prana. Because the level of prana depends very much on our health and our mood, our state of mind. So the function of the body itself, the digestion, the circulation, everything is depending on the level of prana that we have. Even the cells, whatever the cells do and working, is only because of the prana being there. In the same way the electricity has to be in the wires for the lamps to give light. We don't see the electricity, but we see the light. So like that, we see the body doing functions, digestion, the heart is beating, the cells are doing all their functions there. But this is only because there is prana moving. The moment the prana stops, if you cut the prana, it's like you switch off the light. Then what happens? The body will die. So a living body is connected to the prana. It's like plugged into the outlet, and then electricity flow. A corpse is like has unplugged. Now has no electricity. It's just a corpse. The body might still intact, but there is no prana, there is no life. So, and the more prana we have, the more we can keep our body functions well, functioning properly. And vice versa. If we have a low level of prana, if our prana is blocked, then we start having all kind of physical problems, depending where the prana is blocked. You see, the prana circulates in the different nadis. Nadis are like channels, like tubes, in the astral body, not in the physical body. They are in a subtle, but they have correspondent to the main physical nerves and blood vessels and so. So as the prana moves, it makes everything else move and work, and it reaches all the organs and all the cells and it activates their work. If for some reason some of these nadis is cut or is blocked, then that part of the body or that function of the body will not get enough prana, and then it will start getting sick, a disease. So that's why yoga can be so healing. The asanas and the pranayama. You know why? Because the asanas and pranayama, first of all, the asanas, what they do is they are like stretching our nadis. They are like moving the prana in the nadis. Those nadis that are stagnated, the prana is stagnated. Every time you do asanas, you are putting pressure on like certain like acupressure points, and then you are stretching certain part of your body which correspond to a nadi. And the moment the body is released from the tension, then the prana can flow. See, if there is tension in the body, or if there is toxins in the body, then the prana cannot flow there. The body has to be relaxed, yeah, for the prana to be able to flow. Every time you are having a tension, you are blocking your prana. And also the accumulations of toxins. Every kind of toxin that is there. What is a toxin really? A toxin is something that will block the flow of your prana. So actually one of the first practices in Hatha Yoga is to purify your body from toxins. So how you do that? First of all, the diet. The kind of food that we take is very important. The food has a part that we can assimilate, and there's a part that we cannot assimilate and then we eliminate. Sometimes this elimination process is blocked also. We get things like constipation or so, and we accumulate toxins. And there are also some yogic exercises to help us release those toxins, to activate our elimination system. And those are the kriyas. There are six kriyas, six actions to help the body release the toxins. And the TTCs, you are very lucky, you're going to learn that very soon, and you're going to enjoy it very much. And it's a very, very good practice that really helps you to discharge the toxins, because normally, you see, there is a mechanism of elimination. But this mechanism of elimination gets usually like stuck, gets stagnated, and then the toxins do not discharge properly. Then you have to activate it in order to discharge that. Sometimes you take more toxins that what the body can eliminate, and they start to accumulate in your body. And then even your elimination mechanism become, it's like too much for it. Then it just stops doing it. It's, for example, somebody, suppose you breathe and you absorb a little bit of dust or smoke or something in the air. What's going to happen naturally? What is the body going to do? You're going to either cough or sneeze. That's the natural reaction of the body to eliminate some kind of toxin from the air. But what happens if you start smoking a cigarette and you smoke every day? In the beginning, your body will cough. But after some time, the body will not cough anymore. The body say, okay, I keep trying to get rid of it, and then you give me more and more and more. Then, okay, let me just keep it there. And then it will start to accumulate in your lungs. And then after a long time, you will going to have real problems there. And the same with other things, the kind of food we eat, and so the body is like get used to it. If you keep giving the same toxins again and again and again, then the body stops reacting to it and just start to accumulate it. Then you do these kriyas, Hatha Yoga kriyas, they really help you to activate the elimination process. And then, of course, you have to refrain from all kind of toxins. So it's very important to, if you really want to practice Hatha Yoga, you need to refrain from anything that is toxic, like, for example, smoking, drinking alcohol, all kind of chemicals and drugs. Because all these kind of things, they produce blockages in the nadis. They will really block your nadis, then the prana cannot flow. Then you cannot be successful in pranayama and Hatha Yoga if you don't purify the nadis first. To purify the nadis, you need to remove the toxins. So that's the order. First you remove the toxins, then the prana flow, then you can really work on your nadis, purify your nadis. Then how do you purify the nadis? The main exercise to purify the nadis is Anuloma Viloma, the alternate nostril breathing. This is the most important exercise to purify the nadis. But of course, first you need to remove the toxins and be free from toxins, and then the purification is going to work, otherwise it's not going to work. So you see, we have, according to the yogic scriptures, we have 72,000 nadis. The nadis are like branches of a tree, there are some very important ones, and then some, smaller ones, and then smaller and smaller, and then like that there are 72,000 that reach all our physical body, and they even go beyond our physical body. They project, they are bigger. Our astral body is bigger than the physical body. That's why we can see sometimes the aura on a person, like a halo, like a field of energy and light going around the person, and it projects. And the more a person does yoga, the bigger it is. And if you meditate or if you do a lot of pranayama, your astral body increases in the light. It shines more. It's like you increase the voltage of electricity. Here we have the dimmers, right? So sometimes in the meditation we put the dimmer low. There's a little bit of light. Then somebody turns the dimmer up, and then you get more light. So like that, when you get more prana, you see your astral body start to shine more. And not only shines, it becomes bigger. It expands. So the prana flows like that in our physical body and in our astral body. From the astral body, it is transmitted into the physical and creates the physical functions. Now, among these 72,000 nadis, there are 10 that are like the most important ones, like the main, branches of a tree. And those 10 have to do with our main physical functions. And those 10 nadis are used very much in medical treatments like marma therapy, for example, which is one part of Ayurveda, where you're going to be putting pressure on different points and activating those different nadis. Also in the system of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, they work a lot, or acupressure, they work a lot with those nadis. Even when you do Tai Chi also and Qigong, they are working with those nadis. And also when we are doing asanas, every asana that we are doing is going to activate some of those very important nadis. If they are blocked, they will be activated, they will be stimulated for the prana to flow there. Now among these 10 nadis, there are 3 which are even the most important ones. And among these 3 there is one, the most important. So the 3 most important nadis are called Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. So Ida and Pingala correspond to our left nostril, it ends on the left nostril, and Pingala on the right nostril. They both originate in the Muladhara chakra, and they go in a kind of spiraling way, and they connect to our nostrils. And then the Sushumna Nadi flows right in the middle of the body, like along the spinal cord, up to the top of the head. So the Ida and the Pingala are the ones that carry the energy of the sun and the moon. And all the other nadis are connected to those. You see, we absorb this energy through Ida and Pingala, and then from there, this energy is transformed in different sub-energies, the different sub-pranas, prana, pana, samana, udana, vyana, and then we have the minor pranas, and then they do their different functions in the body. But first you need to absorb this prana through these nostrils, and they connect to the nose. So every time you're breathing, you take in physically oxygen and then eliminating carbon dioxide. But that's not all about the breathing. When you're breathing, if you're really relaxing, you are absorbing prana. That's why it's so important to breathe through the nose, not to the mouth. The nose is really the organ for breathing, not the mouth. You breathe to the mouth, you still get some oxygen, you survive, you get some, but you're not really activating the prana flow in the same way. And of course also the capacity to absorb more prana or not will depend on the kind of toxins that you have in your body. If your nadis, if your body is clogged with toxins, and if your nadis are obstructed, then even you breathe and it's like not much prana you can absorb. It's like the wires of your house are all rusted, and very thin and burnt out, then you cannot get enough voltage or power. So like that you need to have a good wiring. So you need to purify the nadis. And that's the first stage in the practice of yoga, is the purification state. Before purification you cannot do anything. No technique will work because you need to first purify. So these two energies of the sun and the moon therefore are connected to our nostrils, and as I explained in the last class, there is an alternation of the nostrils that happens in an average of an hour and a half. One nostril is open and the other is open, and like that we are taking more sun energy over moon energy, sun, moon, like that is what keeps our whole metabolism within a certain healthy balance. The heat and the cold, the sympathetic, parasympathetic, the afferent nervous impulses, all these depend on these two forces. Yeah? Sun and moon, also called prana and apana. Even the process of inhalation and exhalation goes on because of these two forces, and directly related to it. So remember what I explained in the last class, that really the purpose of Hatha Yoga is to be able to unite the sun and moon energy, to really make the two of them into one, and to unite prana and the apana into one, which is the same as sun and the moon. When this happens, then the vrittis stop, because it is this pull of the prana and the apana, this constant change and duality, is like the paddling of the bicycle. I gave you the example that keeps the bicycle going, and moving. So like that, it is this constant moving of prana and apana, inhalation and exhalation, right and left, that keeps the mind in the state of agitation. It keeps it's like churning the lake of the mind, and waves are produced there all the time. But if you stop that, if you unite the prana and the apana, then there will be no churning on the mind. Then the mind will become quiet. When the mind is quiet, this is what we call Raja Yoga. This is what we call perfect meditation. And at that state you experience your true self. You experience who you really are. And that's bliss. That's pure consciousness. You are happy, you are satisfied in that state. And not before that. Anything else does not give you any satisfaction. So that's the real purpose of Hatha Yoga. But in order to unite this prana and apana, the purification of the nadis is very important. When are the prana and the apana being united? You see, prana and apana relate with the inhalation and the exhalation. Now, the moment of the retention of the breath, that's the moment where prana and apana start to become united. Now, if you inhale and hold the breath, what happens after 1 minute or 2 minutes, you have to exhale, because prana and apana cannot be united. Why not? Because there is a resistance there. It's like putting two poles of a magnet of the same pole together. There's a repel force. You cannot unite these two energies. That's because there is no purification of the nadis. When there is enough purification of the nadis, then that union will take place. Then there are techniques to unite the prana and the apana. And then in the TTC, we will get only a little introduction to those techniques at the end, of the last week. In the ATTC, we practice them every day, once a day in the morning. And now we're going to do this advanced sadhana retreat. going to practice them 3 times a day. By the way, today we are starting this Asana retreat, and we are still on time to join. It's not, of course, for beginners. If you've been practicing some time and you really want to go deeper into deeper level of Hatha Yoga experience, then I really welcome you to join. And also the instruction in this course is very much individual. We do some group practice, but also we give instruction to each person according to their level, to their capacity, what to do, what ratio to do, what pranayama to do. And some people may not do certain things, some people may do other things. So there's a lot of individual coaching in this course, a very small group. So we have a lot of time to spend on individual coaching. And this is actually how Hatha Yoga is supposed to be practiced. It's supposed to be practiced in a retreat. There are 2 levels of Hatha Yoga. One level is, of course, when we live in our lives, we have duties to do. And performing our duties is also very important. So we have to keep with our activities going. And then within this busy life, we do, asanas, pranayama, we do certain practices, meditate, some and all that. And that make us, remain in balance within those activities. It helps us to remove the stress, to remove, and recharge our batteries after our hard work and so. But when we want to go into the next step of Hatha Yoga, when we want to go into the deep state, then you have to go into a retreat. You have to go into a retreat. And this is actually the next verse of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika that I wanted to read to you today. Hatha Yoga Pradipika. The practitioner of Hatha Yoga should live alone in a small matha or monastery situated in a place free from rocks, water and fire at the extent of a bow's length in a fertile country ruled by a virtuous king where he will not be disturbed. So basically, Hatha Yoga, when we're talking about trying to unite the prana and apana, we want to be applying different kind of techniques. It's not just the asanas and pranayama we do normally. It will be other kind of, we call the mahakumbhakas, which includes certain bandhas and certain mudras and so, in order to connect these 2 energies. Now, this kind of practice you cannot do while you are still busy in your daily activities. You're supposed to retire and do it with your mind fully focused on that sadhana alone. That's why we create these retreats. There is a course, the sadhana intensive, where you do that for 2 weeks. And this course is very similar to that also, the advanced sadhana retreat. The idea is to give you the opportunity to be on a retreat and just focusing on doing this kind of practice. Very gradual, very slowly, but with your mind fully focused on that. Normally you're supposed to go and live alone. It means free from any kind of social distraction. When you are still with your family, with your friends, with the society there, all kind of thoughts there, and you have to talk with somebody and say hello, and how's the weather, and what did you do yesterday and today, and your mind gets caught in all kind of conversations and thoughts, and you think about you have to pay your bills and that and that. So you cannot practice really the deeper aspect of Hatha Yoga in that situation. Because in order to unite the pranapana, you need to be fully, it's not easy thing to do. You need to be really focused and without distraction. Otherwise it's going to create more disturbance in your daily life than it's going to help you. That's why even we know people who take these courses like ATTC and so, then when you go home we tell people don't do these practices when you go home. Actually it's going to disturb you. It's not going to help you be in peace. Actually it's going to disturb your life. Because you need to use your energy for your duties, then you cannot do this practice. So, but when you are in a seclusion, then you do this kind of practices. And so either the traditional way the yogis used to go and live in a cave, or they used to build like a small matha. Matha is like a little cottage, a little cabin in the middle of the woods without anybody there. You can still see, if you go to the Himalayas, there you see the yogis living in those little caves, or they make a little house with some stones and some wood and so, and they live there, and they don't see anybody. They just get a little food supply, and then they just do their sadhana. And then the other possibility is you go into a monastery, like an ashram. Right? So that's the ideal place also, because the ashram has a spiritual energy there. All the sadhana done, for example, here, so many years of sadhana, of pujas, of chanting, of mantras, of prayers. All this is creating a very protected, very uplifting atmosphere. Maybe some of you don't realize it. Maybe some of you do. Some of you, I'm sure, the moment you get out of the dock, you walk into the ashram, you feel it. No? Many people feel that. You enter into the ashram, you see immediately, you feel that presence of that very uplifting spiritual force. Even if you don't feel it, still it affects you. It affects your mind, affects your energy, and it protects you also from all kind of adversities or negative samskaras. Because you see, we are born with good and bad karma mixed, and we have good karmic seeds and bad karmic seeds. It's like they are latent there. So those karmic seeds, in order to sprout and manifest, they need the right environment. It's like, you can have a seed, but you need to put the seed on the right soil and give it the right amount of water and temperature, then it will sprout. So if you are here in this ashram, it means that you are born with yogic seeds. You are born with yogic samskaras, even from the past. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be here. Swami Vishnu used to tell us this again and again. For somebody to come to an ashram, let's say you choose to use your time and vacation and money to come here and wake up at 5 in the morning and sit on the floor and stay in a tent or a very simple room and share the toilets. And, you tell your friends, yes, I went on my vacation to an ashram, and I went in 1 month and took a TTC, and I had to get up and wash toilets. And they say, and you pay for that? Yes, I pay. Then they will think you are crazy, Say, what kind of vacation is that? But for you, it's great. But that's because you have yogic samskaras. You've been doing yoga in the past. You've been searching for that in the past, and those seeds were there. And then what happened? You come into a place like this, and those seeds, they sprout. You see? Those seeds, you had them when you were born, but they were waiting for the right condition to sprout. Then this is called satsang. When you have satsang, means you have the company of other practitioners, and especially the energy of the guru, and all the mantras and all this sadhana. Then all your seeds that you have are spiritual, they awake, and then you connect to it. But then what happened? You go to another place. Let's say you get out of here and you go and spend maybe a week in the Atlantis, just next door. Same beach, same nice water. And then what happened? Everybody's there going in the casino and just gambling and eating meat and going out and see who they can find to go to sleep together tonight, and then and then that's their mind all the time in that thought. Then you go there, and then all the other samskaras that you have, because you also have some worldly samskaras, because we are born in this life, means we have a mixture of the two. If we had only good ones, then we would be born in as an angel, like a deva. If we are here, we have both samskaras. Now when you go into the other environment, all your negative samskaras will sprout, and then you will start to think like everybody thinks there. If you go into the worldly environment, then your own worldly nature, it has like a fertile soil, and then all these worldly tendencies will manifest and become amplified. But you come to say to an ashram, the opposite. So the environment where you're going to do this practice is very important. When you want to practice advanced Hatha Yoga, you cannot practice in an environment which will give food to the negative seeds. You're going to get crazy. The Hatha Yoga practices are too powerful. The Kundalini Shakti is like a 10,000 volt energy in your mind. Now, what's happening in your mind, if you have good thoughts, if your positive thoughts, if your positive seeds are active, then you get this energy. That's great. You feel like you are in heaven. You feel so inspired. You feel, ideas, inspiration, and happiness, and joy. But what happens if you are working with your negative samskaras? Your mind is still full of impurities, and suddenly you give this mind a 10,000 volts. It's going to happen the opposite. You're going to have a hell of an experience, because all these negative samskaras are going to be fed also by this energy, and you don't know what to do with it. That's why the yogis are very, very strict about the environment in which you can do this practice. The advanced practices of Hatha Yoga we don't teach neither in the centers, even in the Sivananda centers in the cities, centers all over the world. Those practices are not taught, because it's not the right environment. They're only taught in the ashram and in special courses where the people go through a process of step by step and proper guidance and proper diet and in the atmosphere, mantra chanting all the time. All this will just produce the good samskaras in the mind, and then the energy will be channeled naturally into the right track, into the right direction. And then there is the Guru's blessing there, there's a protection, nothing bad can happen. But when if you go out to these practices in the world where all the other samskaras are there, then it is dangerous. Then it's not recommended. It's actually, Swami Vishnudevananda was very, very strict about that. And so, some people just read books about Hatha Yoga practices and they just practice them. And then even some teachers teach it, they don't even know how to practice these techniques correctly. They do bandhas, they don't even know how to do them rightly, in which posture they should do, when to breathe, and so when they teach it and just open classes and in the middle of, and there's a lot of confusion about that. People talk about chakras and kundalini, and 90% of people have no idea what they're talking about. There are serious people, but all the serious schools of yoga, if you really study with them, they will give you the same direction. You have to practice these techniques under the guidance of a teacher in the right environment, right place, with a preparation, with a purification for some time. And then this verse says, you have to go into a place where there is like a virtuous king, and also it's free from rocks, water, and so what happens is you cannot practice, let's say, in a cliff where there is a mountain and a rock might fall on you, because then you will not be relaxed. You have to practice in a place where you can be, you feel that you are safe there. Then you can go into samadhi, Otherwise, you're sitting there, but you don't know if the tide is going to come high, and then you might be in the water maybe. Maybe you're meditating there, you lose track of time, and then the water came and you are under the water. So that would be very dangerous. Or if you are in a cliff and a rock falls, or a cliff falls on your head, like that. So you prepare a place. You see, that's very important when you do advanced practice, because it might happen that you might practicing one moment, something awakes there, and you might just forget completely everything. It's like you forget time and the space, and you just meditate there maybe for a very long time without even being aware of the time. So you want to do this practice in a place where you feel very safe and protected. Also, food should be easily available, so you don't have to worry about having the food and not having. And so, even the ashram is an ideal place. You have your food, and you have the environment, the protection. There are places specially done for, nice platforms and places, nice done for doing sadhana. So you have to take advantage. And then, it talks about in a kingdom where there is a virtuous king. They say you cannot practice yoga anywhere. It has to be in a country. What happens is, you see, yoga has to be allowed. Like there are countries, I think there's still nowadays, there are countries where practicing yoga can be forbidden. They might kill you because maybe it's against their religion or against some practice, or they might disturb you. And I know at least it used to be, until some years ago, it used to be forbidden in certain countries. I don't know, still nowadays. And then you can be really in trouble if you do this kind of practices. So you want to be in a place where there is no worries in your mind. You just do your sadhana, and there's nothing to fear, nothing to take care. You don't have to think about your family, your relatives, your work, or anything. You just sit there and just do your pranayama, and you control your prana, and you work with your nadis until you get the union of pranapana, and then you just meditate. You need to be fully focused on that. Living in such a place, the yogi should free his mind from all cares. You see, that's what I was talking about. You go to a place where you can free your mind from all cares. There's nothing there to take care of except your practice. And practice the yoga as taught by his guru. So you go to a retreat, you go to a place and you meditate, and you do Hatha yoga, sadhana. What do you do? What kind of sadhana? How many rounds of this or what? What do you do? You do exactly what your guru tells you to do. That's very simple. It's not something that you go and improvise. It's not something that you can just think, oh, I read in a book that this practice is good, or I heard that these people practice like that, and I went to a lecture and this. No, you need to have a guidance. You need to have a teacher, a mentor, a tutor. That's what it's called, a guru. And then the guru is somebody who has real experience in the topic, and then he will see you, he will know your personality, he will know what kind of things you need to work more, what things you should not work yet, and then in which stage you are, and then he will give you one practice. He will tell you to practice this for some time. Maybe after some time he will tell you to practice something else. He will change your practice, and will add exercise or remove some exercise. So, and this is very important. When you practice like this, you are always on a safe ground. You have special blessing in hand. So it's not something you improvise. To have the right guidance is very important, especially in Hatha Yoga. Remember, we are not talking just about doing asana. We are talking about manipulating the prana, the pana, and the kundalini shakti, which is like a high power voltage. So you need to really know what you are doing when you work with this energy. Sivananda explained that. I will read a little bit what he says. He says, a teacher is needed to awake this knowledge from samskaras, the subtle impressions, tendencies in the mind, of the past life. You are not just born ignorant or blind. The teacher opens samskaras either by touch, smell, teaching, etc. In ancient time, this was the most usual way for the teacher to teach. You see, it's like in the presence of the teacher, all your samskaras that are positive, all your good karmas, all the sadhana that you did in the past life is immediately awakened. And then that awakening, you see, it guides you also from inside, from your own intuition. It's like the guru awakes really your own intuition and your own knowledge that you already have. And then he will guide you further. He will tell you, okay, now that you awake, then he will give you further guidance. But it's, some people say, okay, we don't have the guru inside. Some people say, okay, the guru is within me, I don't need a guru. It is true that the guru is inside, but we need the external guru to connect us to the inner guru. Only the external teacher, the mentor, is going to help us, because in his presence, it's like our samskaras are going to awake. Okay, and then he talks about the yamas and niyamas. I think that's a long topic. I'm going to leave it for tomorrow. So summarizing, so the purpose of Hatha Yoga is to achieve the perfect state of meditation, to control completely the mind. You do that by controlling the prana, uniting the prana and the apana. That union will immediately make the vrittis cease. To do that, there are certain practices, but before doing certain practices, there is a process of purification. And that's the longest and most difficult thing. You need to watch your diet, purify your body for several years, and then you need to do a lot of anuloma viloma, alternate nostril breathing, very regularly for a long period of time. And not only that, you need to purify also your negative samskaras by other practices, for example, like karma yoga or like bhakti yoga. Karma yoga is very, very important because all our negative samskaras are related to our selfishness. It is the ego, it is the selfishness. And karma yoga is the practice that removes that. When you do karma yoga, you learn how to do things, not to expect any gain from it, not to expect somebody to say thank you to you, or if you do actions without expectation, then you remove that selfishness. So you train yourself, you're starting to do little services, and then every action that you do eventually becomes a service, it becomes just being an instrument. And only when you achieve that state, then you will really be successful in Hatha Yoga. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, it is taught like this. Like when Krishna teaches meditation to Arjuna, only one who has achieved perfection in karma yoga is ready to do meditation, to do dhyana yoga. Because otherwise you might go there, try to meditate or do hatha yoga, whatever. But if there is all these negative thoughts in the mind is still polluted, then it's not going to work. So karma yoga for many years is required. And then bhakti yoga also. Bhakti yoga will help you to remove that selfishness, that idea of separation, that ego, because you end up surrendering your ego to God. You surrender your will to the divine will. You accept the divine guidance. And pray to God to help you. You know, it's not your own sadhana, it's not your own effort that is going to help you to achieve meditation. You need the divine grace. You need, see, for having an experience really of progress in yoga, you need the divine grace, not just your effort. Your effort is needed, but the effort also comes by the grace of God. I think Swami Brahmananda was explaining that in the Bhakti Sutras from Narada, no? How your own capacity to do sadhana is actually a divine grace. And the more you do sadhana, the more you invoke that grace. And then the more you invoke that grace by bhakti yoga, then the more you can do sadhana and be successful in it. So the devotional aspect is very important. So it's not, hatha yoga is not just a mechanical, technical thing, or if I know the right technique, I'm going to make it. And if I do 1,000 pranayamas a day with the right technique, I'm going to make it. It doesn't happen like that. There is, the ego has to be removed because the ego is blocking the whole thing. The ego will be removed by karma yoga and by bhakti yoga. Only then the practice will be successful. The technique will work. Otherwise, you're just going to do physical exercise. You're just going to stretch your body a little bit and take a few deep breaths. But the real effect is in a deeper level. So we're going to conclude now, and after the satsang, we're going to have inauguration of this sadhana course. So if there's anybody who still having doubt or want to join, you're still on time. You can talk to me after if you have any doubt. And those who are in the course, please stay here after. And we're going to have a puja with Krishna and Budri here for the inauguration of the course.